Hi everyone, this is Megan with Geek and Chic, and I'm here once again to talk to you about my experience applying for the Disney College program. Now, if you're one of the lucky people chosen to continue on after your web-based interview, it is now time for your phone interview. And this was a little bit more stressful for me, but there's lots of things you can do to prepare for it. Now, if you're like me, you've probably searched all over the internet looking for questions that every single person has ever been asked on a Disney College program phone interview. And this is a good thing to do. It gave me a lot of practice questions so that I could, prepare. But don't be too caught up on the questions other people have been asked, because they may not ask you some of the questions, and you don't want that to throw you off. I know, for example, I was asked why I wanted to work for Disney, but a lot of the people interviewing at the same time as me weren't asked that question. So don't get too bogged down if you weren't asked a specific question you prepared for. You probably already answered it, and there's a reason why they didn't ask you. It really depends on the interviewer and the information you've already given them. Now, when you're picking the time for your interview, you will be emailed like little invites so you can pick the date and time yourself, and really put some thought into this. I was really tempted to pick the next available time, but you really want to make sure that you have enough time before the interview so you can get to the right space. They also are notorious for calling people early, so you want to make sure that you aren't like driving home from work and rushing, and then it sounds like you're not paying attention on the phone because you're stuck in traffic. I picked first thing in the morning because I didn't want to stress out about it all day. But if you're not a morning person, I would not suggest that. So just put some thought into the time you choose for your interview. Now, the main thing that they're looking for in the phone interview is that you sound positive, so make sure you're smiling when you talk. I know everyone says that, but it is really important. And they want to make sure that you are confident in your speaking skills and your reasoning and that sort of thing. They also want to make sure that you have some sort of motivation to do the program besides just wanting to work for Disney. Obviously, that is a really big motivator for all of us. But when they ask why you want to work for Disney, make sure you put some professional goals in there as well. Say, oh, I love Disney, but I also want to do this in my career, and this will help me this way. They want to make sure that you have some sort of career aspirations, that you're not just looking for a part-time job, because you could just go get a part-time job instead of doing the college program. You're also going to be asked things like, how do you respond in an emergency, making sure you're calm and confident in those situations. They're going to ask you about the Disney look, which is really important. If you don't know about the Disney look, it is extremely specific and it's pretty strict. So I would do some research on that before you agree to doing the program. I'll put a link below so that you can go look that up for yourself. They're also going to ask you about living in a residence hall. Now, most of the participants in the college program do live in a dorm-like environment when they're in the program. So they're going to ask you things like, how would you resolve conflicts with your roommates, or if you've lived in a residence hall before. You can opt out of this, but it's kind of part of the experience. I don't know if I would suggest that, but check back after I've gone down there and lived there. I'm sure it'll be fun. And then they're going to ask you some specific questions to the roles that you said you were interested in. So make sure you remember what you said you were interested in and what park you said you wanted to work at. For me, I said that I was pretty flexible. I didn't care if I worked at Disneyland or Disney World. I just wanted the experience. People do say if you are more flexible, you are more likely to get in. It worked for me, so I don't know about you. Don't be afraid to be picky, however. If you only want to do the program in one specific role and you don't care if you don't get that, then that's totally up to you. They are going to ask you questions, though, about those specific roles, so just take some time to think about your experiences. Like if you've worked in retail before and you want to do merchandise, they're going to ask you about how you deal with difficult customers or things like that. I specifically wanted to do something with public speaking, so they asked me about my experience with public speaking. So just think about the role and potential questions they could ask you for that. Now, the biggest suggestions just overall about the interview that I can say is don't take it too seriously. And I know this is very difficult because a lot of us are very, very, very interested in this program and we all really want to do it. But if you can have a good time and think of that as more of a conversation than an interrogation, it's really going to shine through in your interview. If you can make your interviewer laugh, It'll relax you, it'll relax them, and it'll make you more memorable. So don't be too afraid to, be lighthearted and not take it too seriously, because Disney is the happiest place on earth, so they're not going to want you to be super, super serious all the time. Um, I know that I made my interviewer laugh, and it made the rest of the interview much more enjoyable for both of us, because we were talking more like friends than we were, business associates. So I would suggest, just taking it easy and try to just relax, because it will help a lot. Now, the also thing that I wanted to mention was, took me a little bit by surprise. When you do get on the interview, first thing, they will go like over a 5 minute spiel, and it really intimidated me a little bit. It kind of made it seem like the interviewer wasn't very approachable. But you have to remember, they're probably doing like hundreds of these interviews a week, and literally all day they're sitting there. When you signed in for your interview, you saw like 30 choices. They're doing interviews at all of those times. So this is probably like the 20th interview they've done that day. So don't take it too personally. They're just doing their job. But that's why, making them laugh and making it personalized as much as possible is really important, so that they remember you. Um, Also, just so you know, the interviews tend to last about 20 minutes. That seems to be the average. Mine was about 23 minutes, I think, when I timed it. But I've heard of interviews lasting over half an hour, and I've heard of interviews of people who, were talking to them for 12 minutes and still got the job. So don't get too hung up on how long you're on the phone with them either. Well, those are my suggestions. If you have any specific questions, you're more than welcome to leave comments, and I'll try to get back to them. But otherwise, good luck, and I wish you all the best on your experience with the Disney College program. Check back for more updates as I continue to get closer to the date. Thanks.